It's Chris Frederick, and I'm really excited to welcome Chris. He is a suicide attempt survivor, global citizen, lived experience advisor, and Star Wars fan, focusing on the unique needs of Black men experiencing suicidality and mental health challenges in the UK. Through his project Soul Stride, Chris advocates for increased funding for Black-led research, culturally specific peer support networks. Chris also collaborates with various organizations to promote systemic change and to reduce stigma. Welcome, Chris, and thank you so much for joining us today. We will start with a short video, 3 minutes, 12 seconds, which tells aspects of your story and provides insight into your personal experience and resilience. Following this, Chris and I will have a conversation here.
The first question is, what's it like being a friend of someone with mental illness?
I don't know, I don't think of it like that, because I just think of you as a mate. So I guess I don't think of you like that, so.
I got made redundant, and it really, really hit me. I just used to just lie in bed and just used to get depressed, overeat, waste money, and then COVID came, and that's when I decided that, you know, the way out was to attempt suicide. I got admitted into Ealing Hospital. The ward staff were wonderful. The on-duty psychiatrist came to see me, and he said, "Have you ever reached out to, you know, local community mental health teams or talking therapies?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what this stuff is." He said, "Well, we're gonna help you now." And for the next 3 months, the community health teams, they'd come to see me 2-3 times a week at home, see I was taking my medication, give me support. And then after that, said, "Okay, we need to start talking about long-term treatment." Belonging is something that I've realized is essential. Not easy to find that, but I've found it now in a few different ways. I run the LinkedIn Star Wars fans group now, and people seem to enjoy it. So who knows where that might lead us in the future.
Maybe we should have practiced this more. No.
You just have to be patient and just keep exploring, keep looking for alternative options. Just have that belief that once those appointments start coming through, you know, the services are there in whatever shape or form they are there to help you, you know, improve your mental health, your mental well-being.
It's quite relaxing, this, isn't it?
It's very nice. Something that's really become essential for me is being able to catch up with really good friends like Alper. And I think that if you're lucky enough to find one, even two of those people that can support your mental well-being journey, you're doing very well. You're doing very well.
Chris, thank you. That was a very inspiring video about your journey. Can you kindly share with us some more about what it has been like to walk this path?
Thanks for showing that, Suja. It's been a while since I've watched it, and as you could probably tell from my voice and my tears, I'd forgotten how moving it was. And my friend Alper, who shared that experience with me, we know each other from age 11. We used to play rugby together. He was my scrum half. I was at number 5, and my twin was was in the fullback position there. And who would have thought that, some 40 years later we'd be together again, making that film in his house, by the way, which was so nice of him to do that. It's since my first attempted suicide in August of 2018. It's been a perilous journey. I don't mind telling you. The recovery has been, if I had a whiteboard, it'd be squiggles and arrows and all that sort of stuff, because it's not straightforward. It's not linear. I've faced a lot of relapses, found loneliness, bureaucracy, trying to identify the right services at the right time that would suit my needs, because it's been ongoing. And even today, as a mental health and suicide prevention advocate, people say to me, "Are you crazy? Why are you doing this work after everything you've been through?" I say, well, it's been a calling. It's been, as the Japanese call it, my kintsugi, my calling, my reason for getting up in the morning. And today, a few people have mentioned the term ripple. When I think back to one of my therapy sessions a year or so ago, we spoke at length about my now twice attempts, and you know what was really scary, Suja?
Mm-hmm.
Was that when we started to map, and I'm 55 now, right? So when we started to map everything back to childhood,
yes,
and that's a long time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
He asked me this one question: when was the first time you said, "I wish I was dead"? And I said, I think I was about 7 when I witnessed my father punching my mum to the ground, and the fear and howling in the house.
Mm.
And I said to my twin brother, "I wish I was dead, because I don't want to see this." And we mapped everything from then forward at the ripple. And he said to me, "Do you realize, Chris, that it's inevitable? It's inevitable that you've attempted suicide. There's been an inevitability to it." And it took me a while to unpick that. But I think he was right. All roads, all signs led to those experiences. And I wish I was able. I wish I was able to tackle those early days better. But back then, there wasn't much around. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for making that connection between adversity during the early years and what you have experienced subsequently. Thank you. That's really very helpful. And thank you for sharing today with us. You describe yourself as a mental health Jedi. Some of us here will know what this means. Some of us won't. What does it mean? And in particular, what does it mean to you?
Well, hopefully we've got some Star Wars fans on the conference today. You'll see my banner there in the background, and my 2 favorite droids here on my Star Wars t-shirt. I promised you I would wear something that would be memorable, didn't I, Suja? And I have. And I think about my love of Star Wars from a young age. It was the first film in 1977 that my mum took Colin and I, my twin, to see at the cinema. So we'll always have that memory, and that fear of seeing Darth Vader for the first time. And on a serious note, when I think about identity, I think about the challenges I had at school and the fact that my father, who was a bully, there's no other way of saying that, psychological and physical bully, did the worst thing he could do with twin boys, and that is put them in competition with each other. And so Colin excelled at school. I failed. I was an abject failure at school. I barely left school with any qualifications. And he became head boy of the school, and he had all the accolades and all of the favoritism from the teachers. And I was punished, severely punished, for not being able to keep up with him. So that stayed with me throughout my life as I left school early and I went out to career. And I was very successful in my private sector career. I lived and worked a beautiful life in Asia for nearly 20 years and have traveled the world extensively throughout my job in recruitment. And what's kept me going is my ability to fly by the seat of my pants, my wit, my communication, my humor. Those skills have enabled me to survive. But I still wanted to find an identity, Suja.
Yeah.
So as I started to dig deep into the Star Wars universe and realize how I could use analogies from, things like the Dark Times and Darth Vader's redemption character arc and all those, I started to think about how relevant that is in storytelling about mental health and indeed suicidality. And then the day came when I started the Star Wars fans group. I looked at the Jedi Code. The Jedi Code is fascinating. And I've written it down here, the philosophical tenets that really spoke to me. And here's what they are: peace, knowledge,
Yes.
serenity, harmony, and of course, the Force. And I say to myself that showing up is the most Jedi thing that you can do. And since adopting this brand, I guess you'd call it, everybody in the sector now knows me, Chris Frederick, the mental health Jedi, because I've been able to bring together lived experience, mental health, suicide prevention, and stories, connection with pop culture. And that's been a fascinating thing to be able to combine. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. So eloquently explained. You are running Project Soul Stride. Why this project?
Well, Soul Stride was born midsummer 2023, August time. I woke up one day and said, "Look, I'm at real risk here of falling back into some old bad habits. Not not leaving my room. I live in a shared house in Kent Green. I'm one of 7 people that live here. I spend 95% of the time on my own. Profound loneliness and social isolation, I believe, is what will eventually kill me. Nothing more, nothing less. I've come to that realization just very recently, and I thought to myself, over the last 2 years, between 21 and 23, I wanted to learn about suicide because I'd done it twice. I attempted twice. So I wanted to try and understand it as a lay person. I wanted to study it. So I started to sign up for all these different seminars and conferences online because we were going through COVID, so it wasn't much out in the public. But and you know what I realized is that there were no black voices talking about this subject. And I thought to myself, am I the only black man who's attempted suicide? Why is it I can only see white men from the home counties in their mid-40s? There's something not right here. There's something amiss here. So I started to do some digging, and I thought to myself, I'm going to try and change the narrative here. I'm gonna stick my hand in here and say, I want you to hear my story, and I want to encourage other black men to also be brave and be vulnerable, because we're not taught to do that as young men. We get slapped around the head, shaken as boys by our mum and our dad saying, don't you go to school feeling this way, you're a black man and you must behave like this. So we grow up with this toxic masculinity. But underneath that, if you unpeel those layers underneath that, certainly in my case, I know in a great many other cases, it is some serious pain for all number of reasons, from racism to class structures to financial situations to lack of self-worth and so on and so forth. It's a lot of pain we're carrying for generations, yeah. And I said, oh, you know what? I'm gonna unpack my story, and I'm gonna create a platform. And it's an independent platform. It's an advocacy platform. And I've summarized what my mission statement is. Project Soul Stride is a bridge, bringing together voices, research, and lived experience to make suicide prevention more inclusive and effective for Black communities.
Beautiful.
I sit on the Thrive London suicide prevention group with David, who spoke earlier, who I'm a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of Nav Kapoor. But if you'd said to me 2 years ago, Chris, would you as a layperson have the opportunity to interact with experts in the field? I would have said highly unlikely, because I'm just a Black man. But actually, I've shown through my work that you really can have a serious impact as a lived experience practitioner.
Yeah, excellent, very inspiring. In your work with Project Soul Stride, could you tell us about what it has uncovered in relation to health inequalities, in particular about suicide prevention and Black men?
I would start by highlighting the following. 2 years ago to this day, the newly published National Suicide Prevention Strategy was published, yes? It had been 10 years before the last one. We all read it with great interest. I examined that document along with many others. The document itself had 22,540 words in it, Suja. The word ethnicity was only mentioned 6 times.
Wow.
I leave that thought with you as I go through the 3 recurring truths. But please remember those numbers, because if we're not talking about ethnicities and minoritized groups, how can we say that we're helping to save their lives?
Good question.
This is an honest truth here. The 3 recurring truths are as follows. Access. Black men are less likely to access mental health services. We know this, particularly when it reaches, until it reaches crisis point. This is based on the mistrust of statutory services shaped by racism and poor past experiences. It keeps many of us away from early intervention. This is the first home truth. The second is data and visibility. And Nav, somebody asked Nav earlier, so I was very curious as to what his response was around the merging of minoritized groups within the ONS data reports and the NKISH data. It's very difficult to unpick a lot of stuff there because it's merging in quite a lot of other categories potentially. So it makes it a bit difficult, yeah. So Black suicidality is often under-researched, we know that, underreported and lost in broad categories. Without disaggregated data, the scale of the issue remains invisible, which means funding and resources don't follow. Huh? And the third home truth is cultural relevance. Suicide prevention campaigns, posters, videos, they rarely speak to Black men. They don't necessarily use the language or the imagery that we might identify with readily, that resonates. And this instantaneously creates a gap where stigma begins to flourish, leaving many feeling unseen or excluded from mainstream narratives of help and recovery. So we need to be aware of these things. It could be just a few words, it could be an image. But we need to think about these things.
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Chris. My next question is, the theme for our World Suicide Prevention Day is about changing the narrative and starting the conversation, meaning moving away from stigma, silence about suicide to openness, understanding and hope, almost similar to the work that you have been doing with massive impact. Can you comment on this?
I turned back the clock to June of 21. So I'd attempted suicide at the end of April of that year, and I was in the hands of the Brent Community Mental Health team, who were quite exceptional.
Yeah.
And I started to ask them, where can you signpost me? I'm living in this room. I don't know anybody. I've just literally come back from living in Asia. So London is really foreign to me. Even as a British citizen, London was a foreign place to me. Singapore was my home and had been for 15 years. Yeah. So I said, I need to connect with people. I need to find some support. What do you suggest? And they said, the first thing is, we're going to signpost you to the CNWL Brent Recovery College, which for me was the beginning of an extraordinary journey. And I remember speaking to the admissions officer. I don't know if she still works for the trust. I hope she does, because she's a lovely lady. I've written her name down here, Miriam Peck. And I remember speaking to Miriam and saying, what's it all about? What am I going to get from this? And she used this phrase, which has stayed with me to this day. She said, Chris, our mantra at the Recovery College is that we turn recovery into discovery.
Okay.
And it was at that point I realized that I was in safe hands. And then that would enable me to open up and start talking and being around people who shared similar experiences to me. So for me, shifting the script is what my whole mission is all about, right?
Yes.
I think about the script that we used as a kid. What's wrong with you? They start poking you. What's wrong with you was followed by a slap. Or you know, come on, you're a man, you're a black man. This is what we were used to hearing. But changing the script for me is using things like, what happened? What's going to help you?
The language.
The language. I can only hope that today's generation of parents are not copying their parents or their grandparents, but using different ways of hoping that their kids will be brave enough and be vulnerable enough to say, I'm being picked on, or you know, I failed to get into the football team and it's really affected me, you know, things like that, right? So the language either opens doors or it locks them. Yeah. And there's one thing, there's a phrase that I've come up with recently, which I think I'd mentioned to you the other day. Remember, when those who are closest to pain are closest to the solutions, narratives and outcomes will start to change.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. My final question for you. We have a mixed audience today. It includes those with lived experience, including service users and carers. We also have clinicians, clinical operational leaders, and other multidisciplinary staff. What are your top 3 takeaways for them today?
For anybody who knows me, I'm very honest. Okay, and I'm a BS kind of guy, right? That's the benefit of being an independent advocate. So I'm going to be. So here's where we're going to begin. For carers, for those who are carers and lived experience practitioners, I say this to you: your stories are evidence enough. So when you are asked to join any project of any kind that talks about co-production, first study the co-production ladder from NICE. Look at that, or the TLAP co-production ladder and the 7 layers, and insist that your contribution is not at the bottom area, which is the consultation area, because there's no point consulting us. You should already know what the issues are. We've spent decades telling you what the issues are. So if you want us to really contribute, then insist that we go to the top of the ladder, the co-production ladder, the strategic part of the conversation, where we're having real impact on final outcomes.
Yes.
All too many times, Suja, I've come to sessions when I started doing my lived experience work, where I was looking and listening and thinking, but you've already made a decision of what you're going to do. Now you're asking me to validate what you've decided. And for that, you want me to spend my time? And I wanted to learn about that. Now I resist those opportunities, and I insist, as others should, that we elevate ourselves. For clinicians and leaders, this is very, very important. Firstly, fund Black-led partners and fund research into Black suicide. Build trust capital. Gareth spoke about that very well earlier, about building that equity, build that trust capital. And also, please, if you are a leader with influence in the sector, please lobby for a standalone suicide prevention minister, as they have in Australia, and also the equivalent in the US. Just yesterday, I published my September special edition of the report, which is on LinkedIn, and I actually created a visual table of all the comparisons between the UK, Australia, and America when it comes to managing the national suicide prevention strategy. And I can tell you, for those of you who are really interested, read what I've written and analyze that table, because you will see stark differences. And the point I was making in the edition was, we are still behind these countries. The third, which is for everybody, ask twice, listen fully, follow up, because hope is a team sport, and it takes the collective, as David was alluding to earlier.
Thank you. Well put. And thank you so much. It's been a lovely 25 minutes talking to you.
It's gone too quickly, Suja.
It has gone quickly, yes, absolutely. And it's I want to thank you for being so open and so honest with us, and thank you for sharing all of the advice as well. And I'm going to bring Sheila now. She's been manning the chat. Sheila, over to you.
Hi, Chris. It's a joy to meet a fellow Star Wars fan. I was very excited to say hello to you this afternoon.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing your story. It's really, really resonated with a lot of people in the chat, and especially aspects of your life as well, leading up to your suicide attempts. I think many people are reminded of the importance of understanding what's happened to people, not just what's wrong with you. There's been lovely messages around the reiteration of the trauma-informed work. Many people commenting, Chris, on your honesty, on your bravery. So there's just really lots of love and appreciation for your sharing your story with us today. And not just your story, but also your incredible work. We've also had quite a few comments of love from Miriam. So thank you for shouting out to her.
Is she still there?
I don't think she's with us today, but she is, I believe,
is she still working for the trust?
I believe so. I believe so.
Wonderful news.
A joy to be around is one of the comments on Miriam. So thank you. It's always lovely to receive feedback from the people that have supported us over time. So Kaylee says, thanks so much, Chris, from one lived experience practitioner to another. I love the term mental health Jedi. And Natasha Parson says, Chris, you're an inspiration to Black and other ethnic groups, men and women, and other groups who may be and have suffered with mental health. You've given the message not to be afraid and to speak out about your feelings and thoughts. So yeah, really just quite a lot. People are saying very powerful and a very much needed perspective is another lovely comment that's just come in. I have two questions. One you've sort of answered already. Or we've compiled them. What can we in the NHS do to embed the learning from your experience into our suicide prevention strategy and action plan?
Okay. The first thing is, and this is not going to be easy, Sheila, okay? But the first thing is give up the power. What I mean by that is that if I study 15 regional suicide prevention strategies, which I have, and then I dig into how they were created and how they were implemented, it becomes very clear to me, certainly maybe not the current generation of strategies, but certainly 3 or 4 years ago, there was a lack of lived experience input and actually starting the conversation from here's a blank sheet of paper. What are the most important factors we need to include in this strategy, and make sure that at the table you have representation from your region or your borough having those conversations. I I don't know. If I look at the national strategy, I don't know how many lived experience practitioners were even involved in creating that document, because it seems to be some big secret. And but I do think if I had to guess who was involved, it would probably be the usual suspects, who are again primarily white middle class leaders who have been in this space for a long time. I'm a big advocate for it. We need to change. We need to start to shake things up. We need to further interrogate the work that's been done. Second thing is create decision learning, decision bearing lived experience roles, not permanent roles. But if you're going to ask me to contribute as an LXP, give me some decision making power in what the outcome is going to be. And lastly, which I think is really shake up the apple cart here, and are you ready for this, is this is interesting, is add equity KPIs to executive scorecards. Because if with PCREF, if we're not holding the leaders accountable for equity and diversity around the strategy that they're implementing, then from my 2 cents worth, it's not worth the time. So add the equity KPI to their scorecards. They must be accountable.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, that's really a lot. It kind of reminds me, I was reading one of the interviews on your LinkedIn. I only got to read one and then it chucked me out because I'm not a member. Right. But you had this beautiful phrase around collaboration. If you don't have lived experience, people with lived experience at every stage of the ladder, every step of the ladder, collaboration's just choreography.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
It's lovely.
It's very true. I come up with these quote cards, Sheila, with the mental health on ChatGPT. I've got a library of them now, and some of them are really very cool. Great. Some of them are very cool.
My final question is, who is your favorite Star Wars character and why?
I'm so glad that you asked me that. Thank you. I'm sure that came from Shuja or Michelle Draper. Thank you. I would have to say, and this may surprise, I would have to say Darth Vader, because there's two things. Without the darkness, there can be no light. But also, of all the voices that I try and imitate from the Star Wars universe, his is the one that I can do the best. Right? Did you know, just as an FYI, James Earl Jones passed away? I think it was 2 days ago in 2024. Obviously a hero to many and a voice that none of us will ever forget in the history of film and pop culture. So when I think about his voice and what that's meant to me growing up. So I'd have to go with Darth Vader.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Chris. And thank
You're
you to
very
our audience as well for the reaction. It's been a privilege to hear your story, Chris. And thank you for sharing all about your work as well through your project Soul Stride. Before we say goodbye to you, we will show a slide with your contact details, including how to contact you on LinkedIn. Should anyone want to contact you to find out more about your work. You're also welcome to stay for the rest of the conference. Thank you.